Hello everyone, I'm Giorgia, and today I will walk you on how to prepare your strategy for a cookieless future. But first, let's do a quick recap on what's going on. So, Google is ending third-party cookies, right? But what's new? Because we heard these stories so many times in the past years, and then in the end, it never happened. It's like those apocalyptic, prediction about the end of the world. But in the end, we are still here worrying about paying the bills, traffic jams, nothing really changed. Well, this year will be actually different because Google is phasing out third-party cookies deprecation, and this is within the initiative of Privacy Sandbox. And actually, currently, already 1% of the audience is experiencing the new privacy tracking feature from Google, which basically limits the access to third-party cookies. So it's here, and probably you are noticing this impacting also your tracking and your performance. Because, of course, there is an impact on our advertising activity, because we are losing important information that in the past helped us really to build audiences to target and retarget with personalized ads. So, first impact is, of course, as mentioned, a limitation in the accuracy of our targeting and retargeting initiative, because we are not really able to rely on all those information that we have thanks to third-party cookies that helps us really to track user behavior across multiple websites. Second consequence is, of course, there is a limitation in terms of measuring the effectiveness of our advertising efforts. So this means that we are limited in our capability of accurately attributing conversion. And of course, this will mean also that we are less able to report on the return of the investment that we are constantly asked to report on, right? Another consequence, this is one of the most obvious, will be limited in terms of ability of understand how users interact with outside our websites. And last but not least, there is also a problem in terms of determining how often our ads are shown to our audience. So this means that we may ending up spamming our audience, they may hide our ads, and this will mean a decrease in our performances, and of course, an increase of the cost of advertising. So the future doesn't look bright at all, but is there a way out? How do you survive? How do we survive when we are losing important data that really helps us to target audience with personalized ads? So we have an answer, which is first-party data. We need to shift our strategy from third-party to first-party data. We need to encourage users to create accounts on our website. We need to really encourage them to willingly share information with us. So why exactly? Because why first-party data are our lifesaver? First of all, ownership. We own those data. We don't share those data with any external source. Why? Because we ask directly those data to our customers and prospects, and that means also that those are the most accurate data that we may ever get, because of course we own those. And last but not least, consent. So to get those data, we need to ask permission. So that means that first-party data are compliant with privacy, of course. But how do we build a first-party data strategy? Which are the steps that we need to follow? So step number 1 is identify your goals. I know that's quite common for everything. So you may have as a goal to increase the retention rate of your customer, for example, by building better loyalty program, or to increase the conversion rate by doing better retargeting, for example. Once you have a clear understanding of your goals, it will be also easier to identify which data do you need, which first-party data do you need to achieve those goals. For example, you may want to know what your customer bought in the past, or how they interacted with your website, with your social media as well, which kind of question they frequently ask also to the customer service. So there are plenty of data that may help you to achieve those goals. Where do you find those data? There are multiple sources like purchase history, of course, website analytics tool, social media analytics tool, your customers' chats as well, customer feedback and surveys, and so forth. So now that you know which are your goals, which data do you need to achieve those goals, and where to retrieve those data, it's also time to assess your internal resources, because this is also a topic that you may need to bring on the table with your manager, with your team, with your company. Do you have the capacity to handle with large volume of data, to store and manage those data? Do you have the right skill in-house? Do you have a marketing data specialist, for example? Or do you store data with the data warehouse or data lakes? Those are all important questions, because those will help you to ensure that your first-party data is successful. And the last step, it's now time to collect your data. It's really, there are multiple ways to collect data, but here we are at the advertising stage. So lead generation, for example. So you could do this with gated content and asking your customers through social media prospect to share their data with you in exchange of an ebook, for example. Or if you host a webinar, for example, you may want to ask to subscriber important information like their job role and so forth. So, okay, now we talk about first-party data, how to build a first-party data strategy, but how do we leverage first-party data in our advertising strategy? There are several ways. This is one of the most common, so I'm not going to spend so much time on this. So customer match or audience uploads. Almost all advertising platforms allow advertisers to basically upload customer information to build accurate audience. So another method is enhanced conversion from Google Ads, and this is quite interesting because it really allows you to understand what happens on your website once a user just clicked on your ads. And the most important thing about this method is that the process behind it makes sure that the information you collect is kept private and anonymous. So it's compliant with privacy. And how it works, just an example. Imagine that a user click on your ads, step number 1. Step number 2, the user interact with the content on your website once landed from your ad. And then step number 3, imagine that this user fills in a form, and this form, and basically the data this user shares with you, turns to your website, to your data management tool as an encrypted information. So for example, their encrypted email, and then basically imagine that after a while, this encrypted lead, become your customer, because this lead make a purchase, and then what happens is that your website sends this information again back to Google Ads, and Google Ads is able to connect this information to the original ad that, for example, this customer saw months ago, for example. So this is really a good way to cope with the problem with the conversion attribution, and also, of course, with privacy. Another method is Conversion API, which is available both on Meta and LinkedIn Ads platform. Conversion API is a tracking feature and tracking method, so like Pixel for Facebook, for Meta, and Insight Tag for LinkedIn ads. But what's different is that basically it allows you to track your customer activities and data across multiple channels, both offline and online. So it's very powerful for tracking also what happens outside your website. And those information are basically sent straight from your server directly to Meta and LinkedIn. So it's not relying to third-party cookies. So if you don't have Conversion API in place yet, make sure this will be your first priority. But now, of course, a question, does it mean that Conversion API would replace Pixel for Meta and Insight Tag for LinkedIn? The answer is no. Actually, you should really couple both tracking method, both tracking feature. You should make this wedding happen. The reason is very simple, and it's about keeping the resilience of your tracking system. Because if one tracking method fails, you still have the other tracking methods. And you ensure that you don't miss to capture important information. So we have still a question, because the method we just mentioned doesn't really address the other side of the problem, which is how do we actually identify new users, so new potential users, new potential customers, and so forth, without third-party cookies, because this is the most used method because it's quick, and without third-party data we are basically blind. It's like we don't know almost anything. So AI and machine learning, once again, I'm sure AI is kind of a buzzword nowadays, but basically most advertising platforms are implementing those features in order to help advertisers to predict which audiences are the most relevant in terms of interacting with their ads. So it's a predictive model, and as you may have heard already, we are kind of shifting to a prediction era. And for example, Meta recently launched Advantage Plus Audience Targeting, which is a feature that with AI and combining it with the data that you provide to Meta, so the data from your pixel, your conversion, so your historical data, Meta is able to determine which is the best audience to consume your ad. A bit similar is LinkedIn predictive audiences that basically replaced our old friend lookalike audiences, which basically disappeared around February. And also here there is a combination of machine learnings and your historical data. And this way LinkedIn is able to predict which is, in an accurate way, which audience can be a good one and can engage with your ads. But we should combine also with other strategies, which are more based on context, on relevance, and also we should always wonder where our potential customer are. So which kind of sites they are visiting. Which complementary product or services they are using. So it's also about the brand availability, being present where the customer is. One example is contextual advertising. So imagine that you are a clothing brand, for example, and imagine that a user is just reading the fashion section of an online magazine. So your ads will pop out in this section. So this is contextual advertising, and it's not relying on third-party cookies. So another example is strategic partnership, and of course, why not influencer marketing. Those are methods which are not relying on third-party cookies, right? And it's really about, again, wondering where my customer is, which key opinion leaders are influencing their perception, and so forth. And this is a very good way to reach new audiences, to penetrate also new markets. So that's all. So remember that the most important thing is to really shift your data strategy as a priority from third-party data to first-party data. It's your party, and this will really power your ads and your ability also to track in a more accurate way your audience and your performance. So, and I'm done. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or even during the conference. So thank you all.